Coming up on the Sky News Daily with me, Tom Cheshire. Rubbish piled high in the streets, rats running amok. What has gone wrong in Birmingham? And what does it say about the UK? Welcome back to the rubbish and the rats, some of them as big as 22 inches long, according to reports. Birmingham's bin collection crisis isn't just a smelly hell for residents, but something approaching state failure. This is Britain's second city, after all, more than 1 million people, and the basics of livability, of hygiene, just aren't being done, even as council tax is being hiked. Paying more and getting less is a familiar feeling across the country, even if you're not in Birmingham. We'll be talking about the union and council dispute behind the bin apocalypse, but also looking at some of the deeper reasons and what it tells us about the UK today. And to start with, we're going to go through the bin bags with Shamaan Freeman-Powell, Sky's Midlands correspondent, who joins us from Birmingham, where she's been at a waste management depot. Shamaan, thank you for speaking to us, and you're joining us from in front of a massive pile of rubbish. It looks pretty bad there. Does it smell as bad?
It probably smells worse than it looks, actually. You can smell it before you see the pile, and as you said, it is a huge heap. But this is just one of many, and it's not even the worst that we've seen over the last couple of days covering the bin strikes in Birmingham. It's quite difficult to put into words what it smells like, but if you imagine rotten food waste that's been sat outside in the sun for multiple weeks now, then that brings you close to what the smell is like. And what we're seeing as well across Birmingham, it's not just household waste, it's not just food waste, but you're talking about nappies too, and also many people taking the opportunity to start fly tipping. So in some of the areas that we've been to, not only do you see these mounts of household waste, but on top of that, you're seeing sofas and bed frames and the front of people's vehicles.
I mean, it's a terrible combination of things. You've talked about being left out in the sun, and I was reading it's 21,000 tonnes of rubbish at least. You know, it's 2 times the Shard, the huge building in London. That is a huge amount of rubbish there. And then when you're talking about fly tipping on top, it feels like the social contract is sort of breaking down slightly. What are people feeling like?
I think you can understand why some people would take the opportunity to get rid of some of the unwanted household items, but it is starting to really frustrate residents that are having to live with this now. As you said, the figure is around 20,000 tonnes of waste, which is just laying across streets in Birmingham. We've literally just left a depot down the road where Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, was meeting with the leader of Birmingham City Council. Now, he claimed that they've been able to clear around 9,500 tonnes of this waste, which has just been laying here. But really, it's like a game of whack-a-mole. As soon as they clear one pile of waste, another one just pops up. And literally just before speaking to you, I had a resident come over to me and tell me that this wasn't like this just yesterday, and she was quite concerned at the speed that this rubbish is starting to pile up. So I think residents are really frustrated. And to make matters worse, what we're hearing from pest control experts is that once the waste is cleared, the situation could get even worse as far as rodents are concerned. At the moment, rodents are the only ones that are winning in this, with rats being able to feast on this household waste. However, once these bin bags are cleared, they're going to start looking for food, and the issue is that they could start looking at people's properties.
I mean, it's a great time to be a rat in Birmingham, and they need a Pied Piper of Birmingham, really. I mean, it's a pretty hellish scene you're describing. It sounds like a simple dispute on the face of it between the council, between the union, but obviously things are a bit more complicated than that. Can you just take us through the basics and where things stand now?
Well, you know, in this job, nothing is ever simple. I think at the heart of it, though, it is a bankrupt council that are trying to claw back as much money as possible. And we're seeing now that this is what happens if the dispute is allowed to go on. And Unite the Union actually have a mandate of strike action until September. So if a resolution isn't come too quick, then we could be seeing this for at least the next 6 months.
That would be extraordinary. And while that is all happening, there's been, various developments around whether rubbish trucks can go out, whether they've been blocked by picket lines. But in the meantime, the council is clearing some of it out. There are private contractors who are doing that too. I mean, is it hard for them? There's a huge amount of rubbish there, which we can see speaking to you. But you've been going out with some of these collectors. What's it like for them?
Well, I'll actually start because yesterday we were at a picket line, and the police have now told the people that were on that picket line that they're not allowed to block the vans that are trying to dispose of this waste. So you are now seeing that there are more trucks on the road and they are collecting rubbish. But as I say, you are seeing as soon as the rubbish is cleared, a new pile will pop up straight after. I also went to a mobile centre that are appearing across the city. So these are places where they pop up during the day and residents are told that they can book a slot and they can make their way there to dispose of their waste. But finding a slot is quite difficult, and actually we were at one of those pop-up mobile refuse centres just a few days ago, and after about an hour the manager there told me that they were able to fill 8 trucks. They had cleared around 80 tonnes of rubbish, but they still had more cars coming through trying to get their opportunity to dispose of their waste. Just this morning I actually went out with a man called Gerald. He works for his family's removal company, and he was telling me that he's profiting massively off of this issue. He was saying that before the strikes he would usually have around 5 jobs a day, whereas now he's seeing more than 20, and actually he can't keep up.
Rubbish jobs in Birmingham have now become in demand because they cannot keep up with the demand of the rubbish that each place is producing. They subcontract us via other companies.
And how has the waste that you're collecting changed?
Because it's been sitting here for a long time, it festers, you now get maggots in it, you now get rats. Yeah.
Before this bin strike in Birmingham, how much were you making, and now with the bin strike, how much?
Yeah, I won't lie, the bin strike has been good for us. I can't disclose per se, but it's been very profitable for us, and we are trying to make sure the van strike keeps on going.
I mean, you spoke of a bankrupt council, and that feels like a really useful way of sort of framing this, because what you have now, council tax has been going up for a long time, services are getting less. Do you feel like this is the bleeding edge for, sort of a broken Britain? We've had national comment on this. Robert Jenrick for the Conservatives has made a huge amount of this online. Is this a national problem? Is this why we're seeing senior Labour figures get involved?
I was at the council meeting that was held on Tuesday, and it was quite interesting listening to some of the residents' concerns. There was around 5 or 6 different petitions that were put forward, all relating to the bin strikes and the services. But then straight off the back of that, we heard many residents complaining about those local services, the provisions for children, things like libraries now being closed down and not having anywhere for their children to play during the school holidays. And it's a question that has been asked, is not only here, what would it take to fix this dispute and to fix the issues that many residents are facing, but what does it take really for their concerns to be taken seriously?
Yeah, I mean, and just looking at the scene behind you, all those bags of rubbish, it is not a great advertisement for Birmingham. It's not a great advertisement for the UK.
No, and actually that's a point that's been made by many residents that I have spoken to. The idea that they feel embarrassed, they feel shame, that they don't want this to be a representation of what they live like. I think that many people are quite proud to live in Birmingham. It's a very vibrant, multicultural city with a lot going on. However, all you see when you drive around Birmingham at the moment are overflowing bins, it's litter scattered around the street, and concerned neighbours looking at each other in disbelief really, because even if you are fortunate enough to have a car to be able to take it to a tip, the issue is that not all of your neighbours are going to be fortunate enough to do so. And so even if you are able to look after your house, it's quite difficult to avoid these mounting piles of rubbish.
Yeah, literal mountains of rubbish. I mean, some of them is 5 foot high. It's worth pointing out, in the interest of fairness, that Madrid and Paris, great cities in Europe, have also had mountains of rubbish too. So Birmingham isn't alone in this. Shamaan Freeman-Powell, thank you very much for joining us. Up next, we speak to Tim Andrews, a Birmingham business owner and the founder of Love Brum, a charity which aims to improve pride in Birmingham. That pride quite dented right now. Tim, you're a proud native of Birmingham, but also you own a factory that's right next to the picket line. So you've seen this evolve from the start. And what's been its effect on you?
Yeah, so basically the trucks going out of a morning have been held up by the picket lines, which incidentally means all the roads to my factory are gridlocked. So getting to and from our factory has been very difficult in the mornings. Tends to clear by around lunchtime. But then obviously it's affecting our staff getting to and from, not just myself and the management team and the directors. It's the staff who actually, keeping the wheels turning in our business, and of course our suppliers, our customers. It's actually been quite difficult.
And away from your business, how difficult have you found it in Birmingham?
Yeah, so I took the mother to the tip this morning. Now, obviously, we're fortunate to have a vehicle to take the rubbish to the tip. I had a slot at 11 o'clock to take it this morning. I arrived at 9:45. Thankfully, I did. They let me in early, probably a 5-minute queue, if that. And then when we came out, the queue, well, we couldn't see the end of the queue. So it was pretty damn good timing. So even if you have a vehicle to take your rubbish to the tip, just be prepared for a long wait. And, that's not good enough. And especially the cost of living crisis, the increase in council tax, we deserve a little bit better than that. I'm not blaming the council. I really don't know where the blame lies. But the residents of the city deserve better.
Yeah, so that's a real immediate impact for you and your business and your employees, as you say. And for the whole city, how do you feel people themselves are feeling about this in terms of, their daily lives being disrupted, how widespread it is, the image of Birmingham, in the UK, but also the rest of the world, because this story's gone a bit viral?
Being a proud Brummie, I'm sick of hearing Birmingham being bashed for the bad things. There's a lot of good things that are going on in the city. But obviously the bin strikes, what has been exacerbated is the amount of rubbish in certain areas. It's mainly the inner city areas. But I also think there's a degree of fly tipping. There's a degree of people putting, because it's actually acceptable to be putting it out or deemed to be acceptable. And of course, it's putting a bad light on the city. And being a proud Brummie myself, even to the point 10 years ago, I started a charity up along with a few colleagues called Love Brum. It says what it says on the tin, really. Civic pride in the city could be better. And of course, when you're seeing your city on the TV across all lands talking about Birmingham, it's putting Birmingham in the light that is not acceptable, in my opinion.
Tim, thank you. And that's it for today. You can find more of Shamaan's coverage over on the Sky News app. Before we go, though, we have a favour to ask. We'd love to know a bit more about what you like and what you don't like about our podcast. If you've got a spare 5 minutes, you can let us know via the survey link in the podcast description. We'll be back tomorrow. See you then.